So, Agent 20 has been announced and released as Fade at the end of April, and we're a few days into the playtest now of her in comp and also unrated. And I figured I'd do a little agent guide on her, just look at some of the abilities and see what more we can gather just without just reading the F1 and just reading like what the things are. After some playing, I think there's a few things like worth knowing, and I figured I'd make an agent guide on her real quick. So let's jump into what the Prowler is.
Bring them down. Bring them down.
So the Prowler is sort of like Sky's ultimate ability. Equip a Prowler, 5 send out the Prowler forward, hold 5 to steer the Prowler towards your crosshair. The Prowler will chase down the first enemy or terror trail it sees and near sight the enemy on impact. Now it gives you a lot of information, but the main thing to pick up from that is that it follows the trails, the terror trails. So when you use this, and let's say that you go and you pick up some bots here. Let's say you use one of your abilities that gives trails. What you can do with this is you can attach it onto those trails and it will fly onto the trails. You see how it says trail detected? So with the Prowler, you can use this sort of around any corner. As long as you've sent out that trail, and you can see the trail either from the F ability, which we'll get onto in a minute, or from the ultimate ability, it attaches onto the trails, and it'll tell you trail detected, and it'll go chase after that person. So it gives you a lot of the info as well. It tells you what agent you have actually got the trail on. So let's say you use your ability and you spot a brimstone, but you don't know it's a brimstone. So when you use this and attach it onto the trail, it tells you what agent you found. So the Prowler is pretty useful for gathering intelligence and information on what's happening, but it does need to be used alongside, I think, the other abilities to get the max out of it. But using on its own, it can be pretty useful, just sort of sending it around a corner and just seeing who's there. But yeah, I'd use it with the other abilities. So the Seize ability is the Not Fear ability. It's similar to a lot of other throwables. I think it's similar to Astra's, where it sort of pulls them in, holds the enemies, deafens, decays them. I'll be honest, I haven't found much use with this as of yet. I think as soon as people start realizing that some of the lineups you can do with it, it'll be a lot better. But it does feel a little bit underpowered, and all it really does is sort of do area denial. The one thing that is cool about it though is that you can hold it and stop it in place just by tapping the key again. So for me it's C. So you throw it out and you press C again and you can stop it where you like. It's got quite a big radius, but it is really, I mean, area denial more than anything. It's not particularly useful, but it's just sort of a random utility ability that I feel like you could just use when someone's pushing sight or something. Now the Hauntability is probably one of my favorite abilities on Fade. The thing that I think isn't super clear with the Haunt is that it seems like it's kind of like Rainer, where you just sort of throw something out and you sort of stop it or whatever, and it flashes or does whatever. You know what I mean? The thing with this is that you can send it so far. It has like a cap distance on it, but you can send it like at any height and it'll go through. It's a throwable, and it drops all the way down. So on sites like Bind, where you can sort of chuck it over the sites from it's mid or maybe over showers or something, you can send it all the way over, and it'll go through and stop on the other side, and it'll show people over there. So I mean, I don't know if I can give you a good example here necessarily, like over the top there, stuff like that, and it just attaches through, and it's also a little bit buggy, as you can see, it goes through. But it is quite strong. I really like Haunt. And what else did I have to say about it? It's so powerful in like randomly used places. So if you're quite techie with it and don't always go and play the same basic default spots, you can be pretty good and just sort of get it in weird places that's going to get you all the info, and then you can start sending out your prowlers or whatever and get more info on them there. Now, finally onto her ultimate. The ultimate is called Nightfall. Very similar in the way that you use it to Breach, where you send out a wave of like earthquake or whatever it is with Breach, but with her it's like a nightmare. It deafens them, it decays them, and it also marks them all with terror trails. So similar to how the Haunt does, where it'll ping them all with the trails, this also does it. So when those trails disappear, I'll just show you the Prowler again quickly. It also produces trails from itself. So there's no powering up with it, it's instant use. You just straight up use it straight away. And it sort of flows through the map slowly and goes all the way to the end. Now you can dodge it, but I think if you it's got a good range on it, so I think if you use it up against a wall, close sight somewhere, that there's no getting away from it. It's really strong. Again, it's all about the trails with Fade. Like, you can gather every bit of information. It's just so good, and initiating with it as well is just incredible. You have so much information, you know who you're peeking, and there's a good chance they're going to be deafened or decayed by the time you get round to peeking them if you use your abilities correctly. Super strong kit. I really enjoyed her. One other thing that I found just in general without sort of looking at her abilities is that the character model itself, as you'll see from the thumbnail, is quite a skinny character. It's quite a small character. And just that sort of presence of having like a quick character model moving around that's quite small, hard to hit, I don't think it makes much of a difference. Like, really with like the hitboxes and whatever, but it is really strong and it feels like a serious presence. Like when you play against one, you're kind of annoyed because you feel like she's always like skirting away from you, and just her like this the presence of all her noises and everything. The sound of her kit is like super on edgy, so super on edgy, should I say? But yeah, hopefully you learned a little something about Fade. Make sure you're using your abilities properly. Make sure you're setting up your trails, attaching on the prowlers to them, goes and finds people. Super strong. The Seize ability, start finding the lineups for it, it'll be really good. And the ultimate, obviously getting on the trails. Really strong. Hope you learned something. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe in the video, and I'll catch you in the next one.